Hello and welcome everyone to our Career Advice and Cocktails event. This is our inaugural event for the Young Leaders Mentor-Mentee program. We encourage everyone to sign up. I'm Jake Pollock. I'm alongside my co-chair, Brian Kaplan, and some panelists who we'll introduce to you here shortly. We appreciate everyone joining us, and a big thank you to our panelists for taking the time. This is some of our experienced vets in the industry and can shed some light on their career path and how they got there, so we appreciate it. For all those that are attending, feel free to send us questions throughout. If we have time for them, we'll add them to the end of our program here. And we know your time is valuable. We plan on keeping this to about 30 minutes. We appreciate you spending the time with us. We are intending to avoid most of the COVID-related questions just because we feel like everyone is a little overwhelmed with all that content that's out there. So this should hopefully be a nice reprieve from that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists. So we'll start with Steph. Please let us know your position, company, and one of the hobbies you've picked up during the quarantine.
Yeah, happy to. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Steph Sperlin. I'm with Capital One, and I am Vice President of our Central Services team, so a bunch of horizontal functions that support our office portfolio. And the fun fact or hobby that I picked up, I hope it's not a hobby or doesn't become one, is I got married. So I am one of those infamous pandemic weddings where the plans fell apart. So we scrapped those and eloped and had a midweek wedding first week of April. So that's the fun fact. And again, I hope that does not become a hobby.
Congratulations. And
congratulations.
Career Advice and Cocktail, so everyone can cheers to Steph.
Thanks.
All right, Darlene, would you like to run us through?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Darlene France. I am with Mantech International. We're a mid-sized to larger defense contractor. My role is Executive Director of Real Estate and Facilities Management there. So I do everything from soup to nuts to finding real estate that the programs and our teams need, to designing it, helping to construct it, all the way to day-to-day operations, and then actually disposing of the facility when we're done with it, in 5 or 10 years whenever the contract ends. So that's it.
And your quarantine hobby?
Oh, my hobby. My quarantine hobby. I liked golf a fair amount. My husband's a huge golfer, but I liked golf before quarantine. I have to say I live in Virginia, so golf is allowed during the quarantine time. So I now love golf because it's been my only outlet. I've been able to get outside and stay active. So I think I played 20 times since end of March, which is a record for me. So.
All right, we got a ringer. If anybody has a scramble, we know who to invite.
Yeah, really.
No. Good thing. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so my name's Dean Edelman. I am Vice President of Real Estate and Facilities Operations for Booz Allen Hamilton. We're headquartered in McLean. It's about 27,000 employees. I think we like to be known as more or less a consultant, management consultant, business consultant, all those types of things. But the reality is we do a lot of defense contracting work, specialize heavily in the cyber field, and have offices globally. And we're responsible for operating and maintaining all of those, negotiating leases and all that. So I would say it's not so much a hobby that I've got. My wife is happy that I'm doing a little bit more, but I'll say that this round of teleworking has I think brought a lot of us to embrace it a little bit better and utilize it a little bit better. So these larger meetings, I'll have some meetings while walking. So like a walking meeting, when you're on those meetings with sometimes 300 people, I'll call the chances of you contributing to that. So I've learned to master the mute button and put the AirPods in and take a walk around and do a little bit of that. But trying to keep the COVID-19 15 off, But I don't know if it's successful or not, but.
Well, that's great. I'll pass it over to Brian, the co-host, to get us started with some of our more in-depth questions.
Yeah, so thanks, Jake. As Jake mentioned, Brian Kaplan, I'm the other co-chair with Jake of the Young Leaders Committee. And thanks, guys, for joining us. And I know Jake already mentioned the question feature should be open. So please send them to us if you have any questions for our awesome panelists. So the first one, Steph, we're going to toss over to you. And I know Capital One's had some decent projects recently. We may have heard of a few of them. But do you have a favorite project or accomplishment from your career?
That's a fantastic question. It's kind of hard. I did not grow up in the real estate industry initially, so I've had some cool projects at other companies, other jobs that I've had, but I'll stick to my real estate career. I kind of broke into real estate by getting to be part of the team to build our Plano campus. And so that's one that I just, in support of that, got to define our change management process that has been used for the last 12 to 15 years. So that's just a great project. And then obviously you guys have all heard a lot about McLean 2, getting to be part of that. So I won't continue that, but that's just an incredible to get to see the development of our Tyson's headquarters campus.
Yeah, well, it's turned out pretty awesome. I know we had a Cornet tour there last year for anyone that was lucky enough to see it. So I'd say that's worthy of being a favorite project. So, all right, we're going to mix it up a little bit and go over to Dean now. As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? Was it a real estate executive or something like a firefighter or a pilot?
I was going to say, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm still trying to figure that one out. You know what? I think I am fortunate in the sense that, and I'll kind of embarrassingly admit this. I think Mike Brady was the first architect that I really knew of, right? I thought he had cool house and all that. But, once I sort of got into and learned a little bit about what architecture was, that's what I always wanted to do. And I didn't change my major. You go through that a lot in college. You meet these people like, oh, I changed my major. Some people change their majors 3 and 4 times. And I'm fortunate that I never wanted to do that. Now, I thought traditionally I would be in an architectural office, and I sort of stumbled upon the corporate real estate side of it. But I did that very early on. I did not have my registration at the time that I got my first job with a corporation that allowed me to do some very minor, small project designs and so forth. But my direct supervisor was a registered architect. So although I wasn't working in an architectural office, I worked for and had the supervision of a registered architect, and it met the requirements. The rest is history. I've just stayed on the corporate side ever since, but architecture was kind of what I always wanted to do. So fortunate from that standpoint.
Well, that's an interesting answer, because fun fact, that it's actually true for me as well. I wanted to be an architect when I was in high school, and believe it or not, I am old enough that they still maintain that you had to be able to draw to be an architect, and I cannot draw. So I became an engineer instead.
Well, I'm aging myself, but when I did my NCARB exam, computerized testing was not available. It was the new trend or whatever, but you still had to do your T-square and all that stuff.
Dean, I hate to break it to you, but you aged yourself when you talked about Mike Brady, not the computer testing.
Hey, TMC Classics, that's right.
That's right, sure.
And for what it's worth, I had the hots for Jan, not Marcia.
All right. So, Darlene, we're gonna jump over to Darlene with her awesome backdrop that I think we're all a little jealous of, and ask, kind of following in that same thread, what did you study in college, and is that related or totally different from what you're doing now, and kind of how did that lead to what you're doing now?
The helicopter flying overhead there. Sorry about that. I, much like Dean, I really got into a desire to study architecture in high school. I took architectural drafting. I loved it. and I decided though that I thought I really wanted to do interior design and stay on the interior side. So I went to Virginia Tech. I studied interior design. It was one of the first fighter accredited interior design programs in Virginia. Again, I'm kind of like with Dean. It was a long time ago. It was early 80s. And so it was great to be able to go to a program that was one of the first fighter accredited programs. And it was also a Bachelor of Science degree, not a Bachelor of Arts degree. And that was really important to me because I really enjoyed the more technical aspects of design and architecture. So, you know, I was always into the lighting, the HVAC, the electrical, even more so for me than some of the design solutions. So in terms of preparing me, I feel like because it was a Bachelor of Science degree, which is fairly technical, and you had to take bio and chem and calculus and all that, it gave you a really good foundation to be able to handle such a wide range of tasks and roles that I am involved in, you know, today as I evolved from design to facilities to real estate to now, you know, running the whole like 2 million square feet portfolio across the country. So it just allowed me to be able to have all those technical skills that I needed on the real estate side, design, construction, you know, and even the day-to-day operation. So I think that's probably the best answer.
Absolutely. And I don't know that we could have scripted these answers much better. And I promise we didn't practice them. That's a Virginia Tech sign over my shoulder. That's where I went as well.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Go Hokies. I didn't even see that back there.
Yeah, that was made by my brother in high school shop, and my brother is graduating from Virginia Tech this Friday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, wow.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
That's virtual graduation. Yeah, I will.
Yeah, another Hokie.
Cheers.
Another Hokie.
All right, so we're going to go back to Steph, and you kind of hit on this last time, I think, a little bit, but how did you get your passion for the industry? You know, once you came into it, what about it kind of continued to draw you there and have you say, yeah, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, no, it was actually, it's kind of a running joke. Some of you probably have heard this story before, but so I joined Capital One in their auto finance business as an operations analyst in Texas 15 years ago. And I did that for a couple of years because my background's finance. And I went on loan to the real estate team. They just put me down on the Plano campus, hence why an affinity for that project. And I learned real estate. Like the real estate team took me under their arms, and I learned every aspect of construction and facilities management, standing up brand new services, an entire new workplace strategy for all of the businesses in that region, and everything. And what I fell in love with it was I still had to understand the business strategy of what was going on for the businesses that were in that southwestern region and how it translated into a real estate solution. And so at the end of the day, it was really cool to have this tangible result, literally a physical manifestation of the business strategy right down in front of us in bricks and mortar, and the experiences we got to create. And so getting to go through that whole process and see that translation, I fell in love with it. And so I moved into the real estate group 12 years ago. And so I think, you know, it's one of those, like the running joke is I'm a bad penny. I just keep showing up. And so I've had, you know, examined roles in a real estate group and then relocated out to headquarters 10 years ago. But I totally see myself now as a real estate industry professional, as you know, part of my story for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's kind of, I mean, I think part of what drew me into it once I accidentally fell in as well, and it is really cool at the very end of a project to see people get to walk through and see their new space and get excited about it. You know, it's a big pain to go through, but at the end of the day, it's worth it.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a little bit more advice-based questions, but I'm going to give it back to Jake for this part.
Great, thank you. Dean, are there any specific certifications you would recommend for someone looking to be a CRE leader?
Well, you know, I know this is obviously a Cornet function, and I'm not trying to be, you know, giving that obvious plug, but you know, the I think it's SCLR and MCR and all that type of stuff. You know, I will admit, I I registered for the senior leader thing, and just didn't find time, and shame on me for that. But I would highly encourage that the Masters of Corporate Real Estate and all that, because you really need a holistic understanding. You don't need to be able to do all of it, but you need to understand the role of all of it, right? And so in those courses, they talk about financing and on the development side and all that, you don't necessarily, again, need to understand, or need to know how to do it per se, but you just need to understand the impact and the role on all of that. So I think Cornet's got some great certifications within itself. And then there's all kind of continuing education programs out there in other organizations. I've always been biased towards Cornet because I believe that on average the membership of Cornet represents a little bit higher in the organizational chain. And for me personally, that's where that's the peers that I wanted to get to know, like Steph and Darlene.
So
we're halfway through now, right? So I can go on my second beer now because I brought 2 beers.
You're on your second one. Yeah, you're good, Dean.
Right? Absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna start that then.
So part 2 of that question, Dean, is if you have a young leader who's looking to get started in the industry, they're about to graduate high school. What are you telling them that what career path should they pick to end up in a spot like you or Darlene or Steph?
Anything but real estate, right? I mean, just go to law school, go to something like that. I'll start by saying this. I see it a lot. There are a lot of young folks out there that want to get somewhere quickly, and they want to get it to much higher in the organization sooner than what I did. I mean, I've paid a lot of my dues. I think both Stephanie and Darlene can probably say the same. A lot can, but just embrace the task at hand and don't be afraid to start. Start small. I mean, I'll tell you this. I never worked for my next job. I always just tried to get as good as I could get in the job that I had, because if you don't do that job well, there's no sense or feeling that you're going to be able to do the next job any better. So, embrace where you're at, and again, just be a sponge and observe all that's going on around you. You've got a great network here within Cornet that folks that would love to help you, and I just think there's a variety of entry-level jobs that you can start with.
Great, thank you. Darlene, let us know of a time when you didn't see eye to eye with your boss or superior, and how'd you handle that situation?
Now, Darlene, there's only 5 minutes to answer this question. I don't want you to...
I'm trying to think of a time. I guess I've worked for CFOs ever since I've kind of changed from design. I'd say 15 years ago, moved from design into facilities and real estate. And so when that change occurred, I've always worked for the financial side of the house, which is really important because even though we're trying to control assets and control spending in real estate and facilities management, everything we do costs money. We really can't take a step and do anything without spending money. So it's been really helpful to be under a CFO, but it's also a little challenging because they are experts in finance and experts in certain parts of the business, and my expertise is not in that side of the business. So I think we butt heads sometimes over whether or not we should move a project forward or not. And what I try to do is lay out all the facts and all the data, and I try to back away and not be the decision maker for the business. I try to in our business, it's all driven by government contracts and those program teams. So it's really important for me to provide all the data and the financial analysis to the senior executive team, but then to step back and let them review that analysis and then have them make a decision. Is it go or no go? In terms of seeing eye to eye. I guess for me, it's really just trying to understand their perspective. If we, maybe I haven't provided the right kind of data. That happens a lot. I'll provide a certain set of financial analysis, and then the program team will come back and say, well, we want to see it a different way. So then I'll go out and get it a different way. So I try to, get as much data as I can, rely on facts, and I also rely on my third-party consultants and trusted partners if there's information that I don't have at my fingertips. So that would be brokerage, architecture, general contractors, furniture dealers, and whoever I need to lean on to get the data that I need. I would use them to help present a stronger case and just get the data across to the executive team. So
sure, that's great, using your resources.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Steph, let us know of a time that you have failed, and then how did you bounce back?
Oh, I'm so happy I got this question. I feel like I feel so, but work in progress. I actually did. I had early in my career, pre-Capital One, pre-real estate. I was in the financial job out in California for a small retailer. Their corporate headquarters were there, and I got let go. And not like hey, we're reducing force, or a reduction in force, or a redeployment. It was a let go. It was not a good fit, cultural fit, the kind of work that I was doing, and it was humbling. It was super humbling to do that. And you know what? I am super thankful that happened, because that was a pivotal point in my career. One, I needed to be humble. I was 26 and thought, hey, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I had no idea. What I learned from that and how I was able to bounce back, actually, it was an incredible springboard that actually got me. And so I moved to Texas from California and took the job with Capital One. And it was what that allowed me to do was to be really honest about what I like to do, the kind of corporate environment I want to be in, and what I don't like to do. I feel like half the battle is being able to articulate what you don't want to do professionally. So it's easy to have a laundry list of things. Oh, I love doing all of these things, but to say very crisply what you don't want to do or the environment you don't want to be in. And I couldn't do that. And I knew it was not working in this job. When it's just that gut. It wasn't working. And I was too stubborn because I was going to make it compete for high water. So I needed to be pushed out. And so I look at that was an incredible pruning season. So I can open my eyes, help me articulate those things. And so, I've been able to help kind of, as I do different things, recognize what I really love to do and how to strengthen that, but then recognize things that, wow, I really don't care to do that, or the environment. And, at the end of the day, it's given an incredible perspective. Because every time I stub my toe, you're a little bit of like, well, what's the worst that can happen? I can get fired. Oh, wait, right, that happened. And it worked out okay. So I am super thankful for that failure, and it taught me a lot, and it really was a springboard for kind of the continuation of my adventure professionally.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great lesson there. Dean, if you could give yourself one piece of advice 15, 20 years ago, what would that be?
Back to that whole law school thing, right? You know what? Ironically, it was a little over, it was 15 years ago, actually, that I gave myself some advice, and I said, listen, I went back and got my MBA. And at that time, don't get the calculators out and start adding all this up. But I had been out of college about 20 years and just totally removed from education altogether. So it was a little daunting. But, we talked earlier about, how certifications and so forth give you that holistic kind of understanding of our industry. And likewise, an MBA can give you a better understanding holistically of the business. And I think those two went well together. Timing is everything. I probably was not 3 or 4 months done with my MBA program when the company I was with at that time got acquired. So, that was a nice thing to have on the resume, and they ended up working out well for me, and, we moved on. But that's something I know a lot of folks, a lot of people out there get them back to back, like finish your undergrad and then go right in. I didn't have that convenience. I didn't have much in the checking account, as it were. So went to work. And the next thing you know, blink, it's 20 years have passed, and you're going, what blackboard? What's a blackboard? You used to write on blackboard. What do you mean it's electronic? Really aging myself. That's I would give a good advice on that.
Great, thank you. Steph, what is the hardest skill set to come by when filling out a CRE team?
So I'll answer from a couple perspectives. One, if you look at actually like a technical skill set, and I think we're probably all seeing this, is filling out your engineering team. I think right now it's a hard skill set to come by, just as that industry seems to be kind of just evolving, and people are making other choices than going into critical systems engineering and things like that. And so that's just a hard skill set to find and fill, just as that kind of that group is aging out a little bit. From an end user side, I would say finding someone, we can teach them real estate and the different aspects from an end user side, but finding a really good cultural fit and someone that can translate real estate and business acumen to real estate. So finding kind of that combination as we're building out our teams is something that we're looking for, and it's hard to find sometimes.
Sure, understood. We're coming up on time, so I'm going to pass it over to Brian. We're going to skip through some of our advice section and go to the mentorship section, and then maybe open it up to the group or if they have any questions.
All right. Well, this one is probably pretty similar here to what Dean was just saying, but Darlene, what was the best piece of career advice you've ever got?
I think the best piece of career advice I've ever gotten was to not try to hit 100% of the rocks, but to hit the big rocks, hit 80% of the rocks. I worked for a CFO who I had just the best time working for him, and I used to get frustrated sometimes because I felt like I couldn't get everything done, and I wanted so much to be kind of a perfectionist, I guess, and get everything done. And he's like, look, I actually can't afford to pay you to hit 100% of the rocks, right? Like, I'm paying you to hit 80% of those rocks. So hit those rocks and hit them really, really well. And that's what I need you to do, because otherwise you're going to be spending too much time in down in the weeds, too far down in the weeds, and you need to have your head up and be looking more at strategy and long-term planning or things. So I feel like I say that to some of the folks on my team sometimes. Whoa, sorry about that. That just kind of get down in the weeds too much. I'm like, look, I can't afford to have you cross every single T and dot every single I. You've got to hit just 80% of the rocks. So that's my best piece.
I love that personally, and I mean, hey, that's what contingency's for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to move on to the next thing. The pace of business is too fast, and time is money. So you have to keep moving. You have to keep up with the pace of business, or you won't win work. You won't stay competitive. So that's the moral of the story there. Yeah.
Yeah, I could not agree more. So we're going to try to squeeze in two more real quick. Steph, did you have any mentors when you were younger, and how did you grow that? I mean, quick plug for anyone watching that's not signed up for the Mentor Mentee program. That's kind of the purpose of this kickoff, and you can, potentially be matched with some awesome mentors like our panelists today. So, thank you guys again for doing this. But go ahead, Steph.
Yeah. Well, for the sake of time, I will leave off my We Heart Mentor shirt. But I did have several mentors kind of throughout my career, and definitely early in my career. And my quick tip is invest in those relationships. Like, they're there, they mean what they say. Use them as sounding boards. I would call my mentors. I still call the same mentor I had when I was 24. I still call her and say, can I bounce something off of you? Different industry, doesn't even matter, but just to have that sounding board. So my tip is invest in the relationship, and they are there, and they're there for you, and leverage it out.
Yeah, I mean, you get what you put into it, right? Or
That's
something
right.
like that. And then we're going to try to squeeze one more in. Dean, is there anyone in your life you would consider super influential that has helped you? It could be a mentor or even anyone, a past boss, something like that.
Yeah, I'll say this, and I'll give a little bit of a, preface, I guess, before all this, because, I agree with what Stephanie was saying about mentors and all that, but also, what, we just have to acknowledge sometimes, you don't have, someone above you that either A, you think deserved that position, B, is really doing a good job of it, and, C, just isn't a good mentor for you. I mean, sometimes it's just reality that you can find yourselves in those positions, and just trust your gut. And listen, if it's a bad situation, get out of it, right? When I started my career, it was very typical for people to settle into a 25, 30-year career and stuff, and those are just hard to come by now. I mean, if you're, I have one employee in my organization here recently, not at Booz Allen, but he confided in me. Look, I'm getting some grief, from my buddies because I've been here like 3 years and I haven't moved on. Like, dude, what are you doing? You're like wasting your time. But I really enjoy working. So, I'll just say, go with your gut, and when you do find that positive mentor, you're know it. And I did that probably, I'm going to say 22, 23 years ago. I came to Northern Virginia, and it was really, I reported to a gentleman at that time that had far more encompassing responsibilities than anyone I'd done previously. And I was amazed at his ability to not only get into my detail, but then get into the IS detail and get into the travel detail and just get into all, down to infinite detail. And that was a mentor that I still, to this day, have lunch with, 3-4 times a year. Just a stand-up guy, and, really taught me about values and principles. And, my grandmother used to always tell me, right is right and wrong is wrong, and you know the difference, right? Now, you do whatever you want to do, but if you're screwing up or not, and face consequences when you do. So trust your gut, go with it. And when you get a good mentor, stick around, learn from them.
Well, I don't know that we're going to get another a better sales pitch than that. So I may just leave it there. I will add, when you were talking there, the kind of the first thing that popped in my mind, and I really wish I remember who told me this, but they said if someone's your boss, they must be good at something. So if you think they're terrible at everything else, find the skill that they're really good at and learn that and acquire that skill and put that in your toolbox. And that was something that really helped me. And it sounds like you were kind of hitting on that a little bit.
Yeah, and I didn't want to paint the picture. There's a lot of supervisors or people you report to who don't. I'm just saying that the reality is sometimes there are people there that culturally, you just don't fit with them. You don't connect with them, and that's fine. But find a place where you can. You got to bloom where you're planted.
Yeah. So, Jake, I snuck in a piece of my own advice. I don't know if you have one, or Steph or Darlene, if you guys have anything to add. And otherwise, I think we all agreed on our side we're going to end it COVID-free, so you guys don't have to listen to any more of that.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. We appreciate it, panelists, all the attendees out there. Thank you guys for taking your time. We did promise to keep it to 30 minutes. We're a few minutes over, but again, please sign up for the mentor-mentee program. We think it'll be really valuable on both sides. For those that are contemplating being mentors, it's a good way to help communicate with the younger generation if you have people that report to you. So again, it should be able to help both ways. For the mentees, it's pretty clear, cut and dry as to how it can benefit you. So again, please sign up. Thank you again. We appreciate it. And stay tuned. We'll have some more events for you here coming up this summer. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be part of it.